Beast Stalker, Giant Stalker, Dragon Stalker, Crypt Stalker, Demon Stalker, Rift Stalker, Grom Stalker, Crypt Stalker, Scourge Stalker, Wind Runner, I'm a pony, lead skill hunter. A death dealer, a life stealer, that's just the cost of being awesome sauce.
Welcome to episode 237 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter. And today is National Technical Issues Day.
And I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak WoW on Twitter.
All right, today is Sunday, April 17th, 2017 and 2016, and we are broadcasting live on twitch.tv. You can participate in the live chat room where our lovely moderator, Ali Sander, is there to take your questions, and Delerium is trying furiously to join us, so he's having issues with his Skype, and so this is what happens when you haven't podcasted in nearly a month here, but all right, we'll give it our best. We'll I'm sure it's like riding a bike of some kind, bike with a flat tire, something. So yeah, so hopefully we'll have enough to talk about. I mean, we're really kind of in one of these big, probably as big a dry spell when it comes to World of Warcraft that I think we've seen in a while. I mean, I know there was like this big gap between Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor, and this probably hasn't been as bad, but it just feels like it to me anyway, that this seems somehow worse than what it was.
It does to me too. It's weird. It's during the Mists of Pandaria downtime, I was still playing quite a bit, but right now I'm just like, just getting the free gold from the garrisons and logging out. I don't know about you. Are you still raiding?
No, we stopped raiding well over a month ago. I want to say probably sometime end of February, beginning of March. We were done. Because we weren't planning to do mythics, so we were there, and there was really not much point to do anything more in heroics, other than to upgrade your ring every week. So that was about all. And attendance was waning, and so we ended up just finally calling it and saying, hey, we'll check back in when Legion arrives. And so just like you, I'd log in, almost every day just to clear out some of the garrison missions, and then that's about it. Collect the gold, and that's it. So it's not really playing at all. It's just kind of earning as much free gold as I possibly can before Legion hits.
Yeah, exactly. I figured at the rate I'm earning gold just from having like four tunes doing missions, like should be no problem getting like 2 million gold by the time Legion ships.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I'm only doing it on just the one garrison, so I'm not going to be quite that high, but I still, have a few 100,000 gold, which seems like a pretty good amount, and I haven't really needed to spend much of it anyway. So it's just, I don't know, with all these other currencies that they have in the game, it just seems like gold is a little bit devalued from what it once was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with like 300,000 or 400,000. I don't know if that's rich or poor or average. I always feel like I'm poor, but because I'm hearing like folks like you and more people saying, they've easily got a million gold now. But enjoy it while it lasts, because I know they did announce that they're gonna nerf that come Legion, so there'll be no point you won't be able to keep doing that when the new expansion arrives. And I think same with the salvage yard too. I thought I read something this past week they were gonna nerf the salvage yard a little bit too.
Yeah, all the gold missions are gonna be garrison resources and salvage yard crates. I don't know what they're gonna do to that. Probably they're gonna make it so it's not worth doing missions. They don't want you having to go back there.
Exactly, they don't want us to spend time in the garrisons doing that, and I understand that. And I the one thing I read about the salvage yards is they did say they did not want to prevent you from getting the transmog gear out of it, but it sounded like maybe it was going to be a lot more junk or something like that. Obviously, so you didn't feel compelled to keep running those garrison missions, which I'll be happy to not do that anyway. Although I believe, wasn't there talk about the class holes having a similar system? I saw some discussion about that this week, and people didn't seem too happy about that. That it was garrisons all over again, but.
Yeah, there's something similar. I don't think it's going to be as it's not. I don't think it's going to be like Garrisons where you can check it multiple times a day and always have
Mhm.
new stuff to do. But I don't know. I kind of like that they're not totally removing it because there's good aspects to the mission thing.
Mhm.
It is nice to log in and get something that happened while you were away.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. I mean, the garrison missions, there is some benefit to that. I think the problem with it is not some. It was the garrison missions, and sort of not just feeling like you had to do them, but it was sort of feeling like there was nothing else to do beyond that. I mean, I think that was part of the problem. And garrison missions in and of themselves aren't all that compelling. So, I mean, hopefully in Legion, I'm sure, there'll be more things to do other than just hang out in your class hall and, check those missions that, hopefully we'll be out in the world doing more things this time around than we were in Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah, and it sounds like all of your followers in Legion, they'll be members of your class. So like they're called like champions.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have like a bunch of different hunters, and so I don't know. Just it seems like it's just going to be more streamlined, just class focused.
Which is kind of cool. So has that been implemented in the game, or they haven't released that part of it yet?
They started to implement it for a few classes. Apparently, you can do some of it on the hunter now, but you have to
Mhm.
make a new character to see it. So I haven't seen that
Oh.
yet.
But have they announced what some of the who the followers were going to be? I'm just trying to think, for the hunters, who they might be hunter related. I mean, there's, well, I mean, someone like Rexar, for example. I'm just trying to think who else there might be lore wise that we would have as hunter followers at this point.
Yeah, I don't know of any offhand, but it'd be neat if there's some lore characters in there.
Mm-hmm. I suppose Hemet Nezingwary maybe, he certainly was a hunter, although he was more on the light side, kind of goofy.
Yeah.
So some of his with misadventures and that sort of thing.
He was the
But-
original Marks Hunter. No pet.
Yep.
That's true. He didn't have a pet, did he? Yeah.
Lone Wolf.
But yeah, I mean, so I mean, the garrison missions, like I said, are just I'm tired of doing them, but until they nerf them, and as long as they pay the gold, I guess I'll continue to do that. But not much else. And like you in Mists of Pandaria, we were still running Siege of Orgrimmar, and we were running the mythics and everything like that. So it felt like I was at least engaged in the game and doing something. But that too eventually got old. But by that time, it felt like it was a lot closer to the launch of Warlords of Draenor. Whereas this time, I sort of checked out a lot earlier. And I think in part because we went through this once with Mists of Pandaria, and it's just sort of like, I don't feel like doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not much benefit to it. Like, I have all the gear that I need at this point
Yep.
to get me through and get me started in Legion. So it just feels like grinding at this point. And even just starting a brand new character, which I tried briefly, I just wasn't that interested in continue carrying that on. I tried, another hunter of a kind, and leveled him for a little bit, but then got tired of that very fast too.
Yeah.
But it also seems like the alpha is moving very slowly.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it started the beginning of December,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, or maybe
Right,
even
it was-
late November, early December.
Yeah, I want to say it was right after BlizzCon, shortly within a couple weeks after BlizzCon,
Yeah.
they announced it, and then
Now it's
they
almost May.
It is right. We are getting towards it's the middle of April here, and I know they lost a month. They shut it down for a little bit in December. Did they bring it back up in January or February? I don't quite remember, but it took at least a month break in there. But still, as you say, we're getting close to May here, and it's still alpha. I mean, I'm assuming there's going to be a beta period where they kind of open it up and invite more people into it, and maybe even
Well, just this most recent build, they finally unlocked the last spec, the last Warlock spec. Took like 4 months. And then I think there's still one zone that has to be unlocked. So yeah, it's I imagine once that zone is unlocked, maybe they'll move into beta then,
right?
or maybe the whole beta alpha thing. It doesn't really matter. It's just a name.
It
It's all
could
the
be.
same.
I
It's all
mean,
the same thing.
I'm wondering that now too. Although I think for Warlords there was a small distinction. I mean, they started off with a. I just felt like there always was a friends and family alpha, but that always seemed like really super closed, and where to the point where I don't know if the people in it used to have, you know, to sign an NDA of some kind and weren't allowed to talk about it. But I just seem to recall in the past, maybe you didn't hear too much coming out of alpha, and then they always said, "All right, here's the beta." And it would seem more open, and a lot of times they would allow some of the sites like Wowhead and places to kind of give out keys and things for people to join in, and so I don't know if they've kind of moved away from that all entirely, like you said, and it's just there's not much distinction now between what alpha and beta would be.
I think the original hope was to have this game out earlier, since there was only one raid patch, right? So one content patch, and we were hoping that that meant that the next expansion would come sooner. But so far, when did the last raid patch come out? When did I forget what the raid is now?
Patch 6.2. That was
It was a summertime raid, wasn't it? Hellfire Citadel. I want to say June. Now is it coming up on a year, or was it July or something?
I'm gonna check because yeah, June 23rd.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was June. So yeah, it is. We are coming up on a year. Not too long from now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the original hope was that because there wasn't a third raid patch, that this expansion would come out sooner. But is that true? I don't know.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if whatever their intention was to kind of close the gap between expansion releases, it doesn't seem like they came. It seems like it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
When all said and done, I mean, I can't imagine. Well, what was what they announced as kind of like the drop dead date, if you will, for Legion was like September.
Yeah.
September 21st.
September
Yeah.
21st. So I mean, at this rate, I'd have to think it's more and more likely that is going to be the date. I can't imagine that it would be June.
No.
For example,
it'll be August or September probably.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of polishing that needs to be done, and they haven't even started with balancing and all that stuff. So
Have they? Are they? I thought I read something too that they're starting to look at class tuning or numbers tuning at all, or is that not right?
well, I think they might be starting to make some adjustments for like the huge outliers because they have done some raid testing, but nothing. I don't think it's very serious yet because a lot more like talents for the most part are just completely untouched in the numbers department.
Right. Yeah, and you're right too. And a lot of that is certainly tied into all the raid testing that goes on, and they've started to do some of that.
Yeah.
But my goodness, yeah. So this is definitely looking like to be a bigger gap now between expansions. I don't know if they'll ever be able to solve that problem, but it seemed like it would be worthwhile to do something just to get little bits and content out there. More than a year's, more than a year in between.
Yeah, I really think there needs to be less than a year in between the last raid patch and the next expansion. Because we're going to go on, it's going to be 14 or 15 months again.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6-7 months at the outset is probably a.
Yeah, there should be. There should be equal number of months between raid patches and the expansion. Logically, I don't understand what their logic is behind these year plus time periods. Just it feels poorly timed. Yes.
Yeah, and it seems like every time they want to start doing that they just do some massive change to the game, which prevents them from actually hitting those dates. Because like Legion, it's like they've redesigned so many specs, like from the ground up, and it's just a lot of work. You got to make all these artifact scenarios, like
Yep.
whatever it is, like 30 some odd artifact scenarios, and on top of the new zones, and yeah, it's just a lot.
Yeah, I agree, and I think with Warlords, it was the garrisons that seemed to be. It felt like it was sort of the big feature that was taking up a lot of the time, and some thoughts were like, well, it seemed like it. Well, it was that, and they also redid all the character models and things, so they had a ton of art that needed to be done, and graphics and things like that, and animations, and I think that was probably a big, huge resource sink. And I don't know if it's the same this time around, but it seems like they're adding enough new things and enough big changes that it just needs a lot of testing and a lot of iteration before they feel comfortable getting it ready for live.
Is it too late for them to start cutting features that they just don't have time for?
I'm not sure what they cut though, because it seems all the features they've really started to implement them.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, but like they threw everything into this. There's the Sylvanas and Greymane and stuff like that. So I don't know what they would cut either, but they've got so much going in that they just don't seem to have time for all of it. And I don't know if there's anything they could cut, but surely they've got to have something.
Well, I wonder if they could cut zones, like how they didn't release the last zone here in Draenor until 6 months after the release of the expansion. They could potentially cut content, like quest content.
That would work,
Yeah.
and then they could give it to us a year later when we're in another drought period, as another Tanan jungle kind of thing. That would almost work, actually.
Yeah, because I think it's Suramar is the one they haven't done yet, but who knows? They might do the whole island thing again.
The island does work pretty well as sort of a catch-up mechanic for gear, for people that have been kind of like laying down on the rating and stuff like that. So as much as I don't like it, it is really useful. So I hope they do kind of keep it. But I don't know. There's just so much like.
Yeah. On the other hand, like a lot of times these betas, like everything's kind of, there's like a period of time around a month or so where everything just kind of comes together. So maybe we're kind of getting close to that, because it just seems like, well, they started doing stuff like they just implemented the world quests, which is like the new max level content, which is really similar to Diablo Adventure Mode. If you've ever played that, you kind of just open up. No, you kind of just open up your world map and like look at all the zones, and there'll be like these little markers on the zone for all these different activities you can do. And that's part of the reason why they have all the zones and legions scale up to your level, so that the entire continent stays, useful for when you're level 110.
So the worry about that is, Diablo has a completely different end game mechanic. The end game is that all of your gear is random, completely random, and I really hope they don't do that for World of Warcraft. Like, randomized eye levels or something like that. I know they already started doing that with Warforged and stuff like that, but I mean, there's a little
Well, I think that'll continue.
Yeah, I guess
they're adding more and more Diablo stuff.
Yeah, I guess the artifact stuff, the leveling of your artifact technically counts as random, but like schedulable, I guess is the concept that I'm looking for. Like you're gonna get it eventually and soon, but not like you don't know exactly when. You could get like a hot streak or a cold streak, and I wonder if that's what they're going for. Because isn't it like a drop from dungeons and raids that you get for upgrading?
For the relics, yeah.
Yeah.
Artifact power you just get from doing various activities. You could almost look at it just like a art valor points or something, except you can actually just get drops off of random mobs that they give you these items and you just use them, and it grants you artifact power. But there's also the legendary items, which are totally like Diablo because they're completely random. You can get those anywhere. It could be a random bear. It could be from a raid boss. It could be anywhere.
So I wonder if that's going to be sort of their idea for endgame is these legendary weapons or legendary items, not weapons, items. I don't know. I'm just we're short on substantive content right now, so that's where we bring out the predictions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how sort of disparate the eye levels of the gear are. I mean, hopefully it's not too big of a gap, or I think it would be hard to kind of balance some of the content around that, especially if you can't really, if people are going to be having these sort of random pieces of gear with sort of a wide range of item levels, but still within the what I'd say the requirements to sort of defeat raid bosses and things like that. I would just I'm hoping that there's some degree of normalization like we're used to, so that most everybody is going to be a similar eye level as they go through.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be full on Diablo style. Like you're still going to do your dungeons and then progress to your raids and so on. It's just I meant just the way you go about doing things seems very much like adventure mode in Diablo.
Well, I think the idea of the world quest is kind of nice. I mean, as long as it gets you out of your class hall and gets you into some of these zones on a regular basis, and I guess that seems to be clearly what the goal is. So you're not just sitting around in one place, chatting or doing whatever, or just twiddling your thumbs. That you're actually getting out in the world, and there might be some bit of reward, something to drive, to kind of incent you to actually go out and do some stuff.
Yeah, and the rewards from these world quests look very much like garrison mission rewards, so you're kind of out doing the missions yourself.
Yeah.
The problem I'm seeing is that the people that I know of that are still playing WoW, other than playing the garrison, are playing because they're playing with friends, and so they get out there and they do things because my friend needs this or I need that, and so everybody gets together, and because they're playing it with friends, it's actually a more enjoyable experience, and they've been kind of getting away from that and actively discouraging it in many occasions, I think. But I don't know, maybe that would be better for them to focus on, because when you've got friends hanging around, you don't need as much content to keep you occupied, because your friends will be doing that. They'll be chatting with you, they'll be joking with you, they'll be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it wastes time, but that's what an MMO really is a time waster to keep you there for as long as they can.
Well, I have often said that that the sort of the company you keep and the friends that you have in the game will kind of dictate more than any other piece of content that the developers can come up with. Your sort of level of enjoyment of the game. That makes a tremendous difference. If you're in a good guild, you have people that you like and people you enjoy playing with, that absolutely you can have that social experience out of the game, and it definitely influences whether or not you're enjoying the game at any given time, regardless of what kind of content is available to you. That's a big factor. But a lot of people, I don't know, I think not to get too far off the hunter topics here, but I think what's this is not a young game. I mean, it's been 12 years now, right? I mean, it came out in 2004, so yeah,
Yep.
It's up there in age, and I think even a lot of players like myself who've been around for most of that time. I mean, I'm just not interested in being in the game, 24/7 like I was before. You know what I mean? There was a point in time where I didn't mind the grindiness of it and just the little things like that. And now I'm kind of content to be able to go in there and do some very pointed and specific things, and then log out for a little bit. And and if I don't get in there every day, I'm okay with that now. Whereas I think once upon a time I wanted to, had the urge to go and play every day, and now I don't really need to as much. And that's okay. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
I've got a couple of friends that are hanging out together and they're doing Lore Master and they're putting all kinds of limitations on themselves and they go out and sometimes I go and hang with them, sometimes some of other friends do. And they're going through the entire zones and just having a good old time. And they decide to do it on a PvP server, which they've never done before. And they're getting extremely good with PvP and they really enjoy it. And that's another thing that maybe we should look into for board is try a little world PvP. I don't know. I kind of remember it fondly, but I don't do a lot of PvP myself, like the structured PvP. But I do remember world PvP as being a lot of fun. So.
Well, I don't know. We've given Delerium a pretty good chance to try and get his Skype and everything figured out. I don't know if we're going to get him in here or not, but I don't know if we talked about this last time or not, but he had mentioned change to the new BM talent Dire Frenzy, so might as well we'll talk about that because that was relative. I don't know. It's new in the sense that it may not have been out the last time we did a show, but I think it's like a couple builds old right now.
Yeah.
So what does this talent do, and what's cool about it?
So Dire Frenzy is Beast Mastery talent. It replaces Dire Beast, and it basically just puts all the power you're getting from the Dire Beast into your primary pet. So you use the ability, causes your pet to do an extra 5 attacks, like back to back, and then gives it an attack speed buff, generates focus. It's basically the same thing as Dire Beast, just all instant up front, and both the focus and the damage, and then it's without having the random Dire Beast pets. It's just like you're focusing on your main pet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's cool, but it's the problem. My problem still is that it's competing with Chimera Shot, and it's hard to, because since this ability doesn't do much more than Dire Beast does itself, other than it being all instant.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little attack speed buff, which gives you some extra pet attacks, but you still can't compete with Chimera Shot, which is all this extra damage and focus. So it just feels, when I tried Dire Frenzy, it's like already with Beast Mastery, there's all these periods of time where it's like there's no buttons to press because you're out of focus or you have to save your focus. And it seemed Dire Frenzy just made that kind of worse because it even has a longer cooldown than Dire Beast. So
yeah, now Dire Frenzy has a 15-second cooldown. What is Dire Beast? Is it like 10 seconds,
12.
right? 12. Okay,
12.
so
it's I appreciate what it is. It's just I just think it needs something more to I don't know. I was kind of hoping that whatever this ability was going to be, that it would be like a new way to generate focus, so it's like a different option. But I don't know, like something more akin to the old Cobra Shot for people who prefer that.
Do you think they're building for like one of the specs to be better at movement heavy fights, or I mean, if there's some concern over stuff on the ground and you have to move a lot, and would this be something that that would line up with that idea?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's less chance that your Dire Beasts have to run around and chase targets, so that's nice. And it is nice to have the burst damage up front. It's just, like I said, for me, it's comparing it to Chimera Shot. I just can't imagine not taking Chimera Shot when this is the alternative,
Yeah, especially if you're not gaining anything other than, not having to summon, additional pets to do what this ability is going to do.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of putting the power back into your main pet. I think that's really cool, and like I like having more controlled pet attacks. Like I really missed the old version of Blink Strike, and even the old version of Lynx Rush and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. I kind of wish they just like It's just like a baseline thing. It's like having more controlled pet attacks. But I don't know. It's just with Chimera Shot, you get so much more out of it. And plus, you get an extra button to press to fill in downtime and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe people prefer the, slightly, a simplified rotation a little bit by, not having that extra button. But still, I can't imagine that it would be that hard to factor in. I don't really know that it would be that big of a problem. I don't know if there's anywhere else in the talent tree that they could put it, what else it could replace, so you could have either Dire Beast or Dire Frenzy without sacrificing something like Chimera Shot. Because yes, I see what you're saying. Are you gaining enough by having your pet be able to do more? And it doesn't sound like it, right? It doesn't sound like the gain of having all of this placed on your pet, outweighs the loss of, like you say, a Chimera Shot.
Yeah, and I guess I'm somewhat biased too because I do like Dire Beasts. Like I like summoning those extra pets, especially that they're adding that glyph where it uses your own pets
right
from your stable, which I think is pretty cool. So I kind of just wish Dire Frenzy was just kind of like a throw in. They just gave it to us, not as a talent. It's just like another ability to use.
Yeah, I don't know how. I'm trying to think how else they could implement it. I mean, it doesn't really fit in other words, like a glyph would have made sense but it doesn't make sense with what they've done with sort of minor glyphs, if you will. I wouldn't make sense to have that be a glyph. With the route they've taken with glyphs this time around, to say have a glyph of Dire Frenzy, for example, which would add this functionality to that ability. But yeah, I don't know. But again, if it looks like something that they're going to put in there and people aren't going to use, then they may rethink it. They have done that from time to time.
I think a lot of people would still use it. It's just just not my cup of tea, I guess, compared to the alternative.
So I'm just looking at like potential interactions with the artifact, and there's something called Surge of the Storm God, where. So first off, are all the artifact abilities implemented in the game? Are they, or at least in alpha?
I think all of them are, except for like one of the marksmanship ones.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, if, for example, Surge of the Storm God is AOE based, when you use a multi-shot, Titan Strike has a chance to discharge an electrical current at your pet's locations. Did that previously include your Dire Beasts? And, would this be more of a buff towards AOEing near your main pet? Like, is it more control? I'm just trying to think, like, why would they put this in here? Maybe it was interactions with the artifact abilities.
I think that specific ability is kind of an outlier because everything else, that all the talents and artifact traits that interacted with Dire Beast, they also interact with Dire Frenzy, except for that one, Surge of the Storm God. You do lose that extra pet there, so I don't think, like, I don't know if you get it like an extra discharge from your main pet, or I don't know. I don't think so though.
Yeah,
just kind of like a downside from taking that talent.
Okay, now I'm just trying to think, like, it has gotten a lot more complicated in terms of interactions, because now not only do we have our typical talents, we have the artifact traits to add in, and I wasn't sure if there was some interactions that we hadn't seen yet. So
yeah, I'm sure those will, we'll figure those out as they come along, as we test it more and get more people actually playing.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't really brought in more people, because it's been pretty limited in the alpha, right? I mean, there haven't been really a lot of waves of invites into the alpha. Is that right?
No, yeah, there hasn't, and it's pretty like dead out in the world too. Like I'm out there questing in the new zones, and there's just no one out there. Like come on, Blizzard, invite some more people. They're all just hanging out at the target dummies, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing about these testing too, it's hard too. It's not like playing the live game. I mean, it's the content is the same, I suppose, but you don't really go in there and play it the same way with the same sort of conviction and the same sense of purpose that you would do the live. I mean, you actually go in there and you're sort of, you do go in there with a testing mentality. Nothing you do matters all that much. I mean, right? You can't keep what you earn and all the levels and everything you've done, all the progression that you've done with your character. None of it matters. So you have a tendency not to play it nearly the same way.
Yeah, it's true. I think a lot of the testers, they probably don't. They'll just log in and check out their class changes, and then that's it. I think that's probably why you don't see many people out in the world. I still like to do it, though. I like to go through the leveling process once or twice, and I mean, submitting some bugs and stuff like that. Because I know how frustrating it can be to come across a quest on the live servers and it's like too crowded and not enough spawns or something like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot of my bugs tend to be focused on that sort of thing.
Well, thank you. You're making life easier for the rest of us.
So that was Dire Frenzy. What else? And this, I don't know if we talked. I think we touched on this. Now, this one I think we touched on briefly, but didn't really get into it very much. Was the survival changes to the traps, and it used to be that all the traps were linked in terms of their cooldown, so you kind of had to pick and choose which trap you were going to use. But they removed that restriction, right? So each trap is essentially its own ability now with its own cooldown, which obviously makes them infinitely more useful. But and I don't know if you've tried that or not. I mean, does it seem overpowered in any way? Have they had to nerf any of these traps as a result of being able to toss them all out at once, or is it just not an issue really?
No, it's not an issue. It's they don't feel overpowered, but they're nice to have. They're just they're part of the spec, so it's all taken into account, I think.
And I think you mentioned also that explosive trap is no longer thrown. You just drops at the feet now.
Yep. You used to have to target, like use the ability and then target the ground and shoot it, and now it just drops at your feet, which is a lot nicer for survival because you're fighting in melee anyway.
That's right.
This the explosive trap is something that you use even in single target damage now, so it's nice just to have a one button press.
Which that makes a lot more sense. And I believe also, and that applies to, was it the steel trap?
No, steel trap
Not
you
steel
still
trap.
launch.
I'm sorry, I meant the okay. But steel trap, is that one? No, steel trap. I haven't looked at this in a while, so I apologize. But steel trap, is that replaced by explosive? Steel trap is, let's see, here it
Replaces
is.
freezing.
Replaces freezing trap. I knew it replaced some trap. I wanted to say it was explosive trap, but that's not the case. Because you were suggesting that if you have steel trap, you'd be using that as part of your DPS rotation as well.
Yep. It's a 1 minute cooldown, and it's just it's a pretty big bleed effect. It lasts for 30 seconds. If you use it on a boss or something like that, obviously it doesn't trap the boss, but it still applies the bleed effect to them.
But that's nice. So it sounds like survival has a lot more options now than it did before in that regard.
Yeah, but you can if you want to use traps like for damage, you have explosive trap, which you always have, and then you could take Dragon's Fire Grenade, which it's not really a trap anymore. It's a grenade now. And then there's steel trap, so you could be using those three things as part of your rotation if you want. Having one or two traps does help because survival does have a lot of downtime where you got nothing to do. So it's nice to have those extra abilities just to fill it in.
And like you said, the Dragon's Fire grenade too. I guess it's not really a trap. So and it's something that you can actually, you have to have the whoever you're throwing it at targeted, and it just sort of hurls it at them like it would be a normal ability. So it's not really, doesn't really behave the same as a trap where you kind of have to place it where you want it to go.
Yeah.
Does that explode on landing?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no time. There's no setup time.
No.
So it's like a throw AOE.
Yeah, it just explodes on the target, and
Is it an AOE? I never really looked at it all that much.
yeah, it does less damage to the surrounding enemies, but
Oh, okay.
it's I mean, I'm not sure how much use it'll end up getting because it's competing against a Murder of Crows and Snake Hunter. So Snake Hunter is a cooldown that gives you 3 charges of Fungus Bite. So, but I mean, I don't know. I kind of like having a couple traps there just because it fills things in.
And then also the marksmanship changes. Those are now, I believe they're live in the alpha. So remember they reverted it so that marksmanship would have a pet baseline, and then you'd have to choose the lone wolf talent if you wanted to be without a pet. Have you played around with that yet? I can't imagine like there's much to it.
Oh, it's just
I mean,
just a pet. Pretty much none of marksmanship's talents interact with a pet, so it's just kind of a pet following you around, doing a little damage.
which I wonder if that's something they'll have to change. Maybe not, but that's a good point, because right, it was all designed around not having a pet, which isn't something we talked about last time. And now, is there an impact to that? Are there talents there that don't make sense to use if you have a pet, or is it not matter as much?
I don't think it matters. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is already designed without a pet, so
Mm-hmm.
in a way, that's a good thing for the people who want a lone wolf, because there's, it's not just kind of tossed in like the old lone wolf, where you're kind of missing things. You pretty much have everything, whether you have a pet or not. You're only missing out on those 2 other talents,
Mm-hmm.
which they're not game changing at all. So.
Yeah, one of our listeners, Garfurian, in the chat room was saying he likes MM with the pet and the Black Arrow talent, for soloing. That's actually seems like a good option.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You basically get 2 pets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this might be better for leveling than. I mean, BM always used to be the leveling spec because
Right.
you could just have your pet tank everything and just pull the entire zone and move on. And I wonder if this was just in direct, or like people complaining that MM had trouble leveling or something like that. I don't know. That might be a good option to start off with, and then switch over to Lone Wolf for raids. I don't know.
Yeah, though BM still has the Beast Cleave, which is still going to be the king of tanking multiple things at once.
Right.
Especially since you can't spam misdirection anymore.
Oh, did they remove the glyph? That?
Yeah.
Too? Okay.
Yes, the glyph is gone, so you can't just. I mean, misdirection obviously is still there, but yeah, we can't glyph it. So that'll certainly feel like a nerf to the folks that like to do that sort of extreme soloing. That's a little bit of a hit. That's a hit there that they're taking. But yeah, the marksmanship with the pet with the Black Arrow does seem kind of fun, because that Black Arrow, summons that skeleton minion, and it will taunt the whatever you're attacking for the duration. So it's kind of nice. You kind of get like a little bit of a brief, short duration tank, and along with your pet. Yeah, I can see how that would be good while you're trying to level, and be a good combination.
Yeah, your pet and the Black Arrow minion, they kind of just taunt back and forth, and then it actually could be nice for like a really difficult elite or something like that damages your pet quickly. so get some time to heal up. But yeah. Other than that, there's really not much. The pet is kind of just, people wanted a pet, so they added it back.
Mm-hmm.
What was the talent they removed to put Lone Wolf back in?
Exotic munitions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they also removed from BM to put in Dire Frenzy. So rest in peace, exotic munitions.
It took a while for that one to kind of disappear. I mean, it was, I don't think I ever used. Certainly didn't use it at all. This expansion for PvE in any way. So it just sort of was a neat idea, and it sort of was kind of a riff on where you thought about how cool it would be to have different types of ammo back in the day when we had had to carry the ammo in our bags, and it seemed like a good idea to have. Maybe you could have different kinds of arrows and bullets and things like that. But here we sort of gotten that, and it just never really worked out.
Yeah.
And I don't think no one's gonna miss it.
Be interesting to bring back like immunities to different types like fire and you can't use a fire spell on a fire elemental, but I don't think they're ever going to go back to that sort of fantasy. I know the pros probably don't outweigh the cons, but I mean, I don't know, maybe some sort of challenge mode where you would go harder in, and you would have to pick some of these different like customize your gear a little bit or do something. I don't know. We're really just grasping for content at this point of any kind. Make us do
I see
stuff.
what you're saying.
Yeah, this game has sort of become more than the sum of its parts. We're just trying to add concepts to things that they've made in the past, and just try to build new challenges for us to just stay in the game at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that was really the bulk of what's sort of happening in the alpha right now. I mean, we're not. I mean, I was reading through some of the notes and things. A lot of. Yeah, I mean, they seem to be focusing on other classes right now with these last few builds. So, maybe there'll be some bigger changes for hunters down the road here. But right now, it sounds like it's starting to stabilize a little bit here, and that the three specs are kind of taking their final shape, other than the numbers and the amount of damage that they'll do. But it seems like in terms of talents and abilities and things, that maybe they're reaching the end here, and what we see now is kind of what it is going to be going into the start of Legion anyway.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, maybe this is a sign that you mentioned that they implemented the last spec that was not yet implemented. Maybe that means that we're going to be transitioning to a beta soon, and hopefully get more people in. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I think the one main thing I'm still waiting for is what they're going to do with pets and pet abilities. Like, if they're just going to leave it so it's kind of weird that some pets get abilities and some don't. Like, it's like, why does a crocolisk have an ability and like
If something else doesn't, yes.
some other, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, doing it that way just will certainly make it feel random at least, and then, so maybe they'll, who knows. And of course, I suppose the simplest thing to do would be to remove those abilities and just have them do nothing. But it'd be probably nicer to see the pets gain something rather than have it be taken away.
Yeah, well, they've already sort of stated that hunter pets are going to be more of an aesthetic choice. So what I think will happen is they're going to remove all abilities except for the ones that exotic pets have.
Yeah. Like I said, and that would sort of make sense. I mean, I think you would want exotic pets to feel a little bit special, since the only beast mastery can tame them, You know, I mean, because you can't. I mean, you have to have it do piece. There has to be something functional uh, with that benefit. You can't just make it be cosmetic because who's to say what pet looks cool and what should be an exotic and what shouldn't be. I mean, it's a little bit subjective. So
Yeah.
I think having them do something different rather than just look different really makes sense for the game. So you're probably right. So I guess maybe the non-exotic pets, if they have abilities, we'll probably lose them at some point here. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And I haven't checked out the Petopia to see if anything new has been added. Have you noticed if anything new's been added pet-wise in these last couple of builds, or?
Nothing really new. I mean, recently, a couple of builds ago, we've been able to start taming things
Mhm.
on the Broken Isles, but it still kind of bugs. Like you tame it, and it only has like a quarter of the health that it should.
Oh, right.
And it. But I've gone around and gotten it. There's some nice looking new pets out there. I think we talked last time we talked about those robot dogs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of rares like that, I don't know of any more than those 2 robot dogs. But I'm sure once we get more people on there, we'll start finding more things.
Yeah. And the guys that run Petopia and things, they're pretty good about a lot of them are in there, and they're pretty good about that's kind of what they do. They'll run around. They'll even go to the old world and test out some of the existing pets and just to make sure things that were tameable before are still tameable, and as well as to check out the ones that you couldn't tame to see if there's anything new. So they're really good at ferreting those things out for sure.
Yeah, and I noticed Blizzard has already been listening to some of the feedback that they've been giving over there because, for example, they changed all of the bears to use the new bear model.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some people they kind of, they wanted to keep their old bears. So the compromise that Blizzard did was they made it so that all of the old world bears that were rares, they keep their old appearance, but all the common ones get the new appearance.
That makes sense. I mean, I really think I do have to give Blizzard credit for trying to make everyone happy, even though sometimes they make decisions that are a little counter to what you would think are logical. But Delerium actually was in chat saying that there was a lot of complaining, but when you try to make everyone happy, you get just as many complaints, I feel. So I don't know. It's nice to have the options. I think more than anything, rather than going one way or the other, having the option, especially in something as aesthetic as your bear. I think one of you guys back in the day made the joke that you would use a pet if it was a cube.
Yeah, that was Euripides used to say that. He was just all of it. He didn't really care what his pet looked like at all. He would just an untextured cube, as long as if it did the most DPS, and that was sort of back when pets weren't quite as normalized. And he said, and that was his focus. Just give me whatever does the most DPS, and was an untextured cube. He would be perfectly fine with that.
There was a time in beta where he did have an untextured cube as his pet for a while, so I think that's probably where it started. But the thing is that it doesn't really give us a choice. It only gives us a choice once we reach level, 100 or 102 or 110 or whatever. And if it was like a glyph, and like you start off with a brand new dwarf, and then you could choose if you wanted a new looking bear or an old looking bear. And most people are really going to choose a new looking bear, to be honest.
Yes.
They're not going to be able to until they get to be high level. And then I've had this bear with me for 110 levels. It's not the same bear if I get a new bear. If it was a glyph or like a little checkbox that you could say, I want to see the new bear, it's still my bear. It's just he's now just a better looking bear. That would be a choice, but it's not a choice right now. Because if you're a role player, it's not the same bear. It's, and we may not be a large percentage of the community, but that's the way it is. I've got a tiger that I would like him to be new looking, but it was my first my first pet. It's my tiger.
Yeah. There's a lot
no
of
other
nostalgia.
tiger that's going to work.
Absolutely no. I have a cat from
Mhm.
from the Highlands that I tamed back at level 30, and yeah, it's same idea. No, it's
It's true. Yeah, you do get attached to these for whatever reason. Like, you sort of remember, especially as a cool pet, you remember where you were, what day it was that you went and tamed them, and the circumstances. And even if you were to like abandon that pet and then go and retame it, it still doesn't feel the same, right?
no, it absolutely doesn't. Yeah.
You know, you're like, it's not the same. I know it looks the same, but for whatever reason, it doesn't quite feel like the same one that you got that first time around.
It's not the one that was with you when you down Mechanar for the first time, or
Yeah.
There's some nostalgia attached to that, and I think we have one of the only classes that have that. That's not true. That's not true. Warlocks, when they have their demon summon, they have that randomly generated name, and there was that one bug back in the day that regenerated everyone's demon names. And there was a massive outcry from the Warlocks, so it sounded like
That's true. I got caught in that bug,
yeah.
and I was really upset.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything that sticks with you for that many levels. I mean, you outgrow your gear, you outgrow your a lot of other stuff, but your pet's always with you. So, I think it is valuable that they are giving the pets so much attention.
Cool. Well, I think on that note, why don't we call this one a day? We're close to an hour here. I know I've got some stuff I need to get done here the rest of the day. I know, Cynthia, you've got to get somewhere. So let's wrap this one up, and we'll come back hopefully in a couple weeks and see what other changes have come in the alpha here. So you have been listening to episode 237 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
And I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak WoW on Twitter.
All right. Check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or add our RSS feed to your reader. And of course, we'll have all these links available in our show notes. And if you have a question or topic you would like us to abstain from reading on the show, email us. I forget which episode the abstain came from, but email us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at huntingpartypod. And stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your dark brew lager.
Keep your eyes on the beast.
For Azeroth.
A life stealer, that's just the cost of being awesome sauce. A dues payer, a boss slayer, I rock out with my lockout Viper to cheetah to dragon hawk. No time to waste, cause I can jump shot. BM, MM, and SV. I can rock out any tree. Never worried about my threat, cause I've got FD and misdirect. Catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, cause I am hit capped. Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top the meters every fight. Raiding and cave dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malagos. We even killed the Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Megtheridon, Sapuron, Lucifer to Sulfuron, Archimon, Amalon, I'm a hunter.